Hello and welcome to today's demo day. I am Daniela Devera. My pronouns are she, her. I am the design lead for NAVA's WIC participant recertification portal. That's what we'll be talking about in today's first demo day for this project. And I'm joined today by Michaela, who I'll let introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Michaela Stevens, use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior designer researcher on the project.
And again, today is our first demo day for this project. Here's what we'll be covering in today's presentation. We're going to introduce our project. We are mostly focused on the Participant Advisory Council today, where we'll cover what is that all about and how we're working with that group. We'll also talk about how we're working with other states. So that will be covered in today's recording. Introductions to NAVA and the project. If you have attended some of these presentations before, you might have heard us talk about this, but just for context, NAVA, where both Michaela and I work, is a public benefit corporation that builds government services that are simple, effective, and accessible to all. At a high level, we are a public benefit corporation helping to transform government services, programs, and agencies that serve vulnerable populations. And our expertise is really in technology implementation. And this is not our first project regarding WIC. So in 2020, NAVA actually worked with the National WIC Association on a landscape assessment of enrollment and certification technology. And the goals of the assessment were to catalog the online tools used by state WIC agencies to support certification, understand and assess opportunities and challenges that these tools introduce, and then to make recommendations to support increasing the ability of WIC to innovate. And that was 2020, it's 2023, and I'm really excited to say that we've actually been working with NWA on an updated 2.0 version of this landscape assessment, and that will be published in late March, so keep your eyes open for that. And then last year, we built out a demonstration eligibility screener, and with that, a prototype API in partnership with Montana WIC. And through this demonstration project, we wanted to learn towards our vision of an API standard for WIC, and to demonstrate how a digital touchpoint like this could reduce burden for participants and staff. We learned a lot in this project. We shared our findings throughout during demo days like this one, and pretty soon we'll be publishing case studies that detail our process and learnings on our website. And then I just mentioned demo days like this. Also, as part of our partnership with the National WIC Association, we are a part of the WIC Technology Resource Group, and we have been hosting these office hours and learning sessions and demo days for actually a whole year now, and we've covered a variety of topics. And a little bit more about this group, it's primarily a knowledge sharing group aligned in our vision of using technology to improve the accessibility of WIC services and enhance the WIC participant experience. And we're sharing what we know and what we learn across the larger WIC community, allowing agencies to leverage the tools and learnings that we offer alongside their own deep expertise to meet their constituents' needs. And all of the recordings from past sessions you can watch on our website, on NAVA's website, and we're open to hearing from everyone about what you're interested in talking about together and learning from each other about, so do let us know if you have ideas. So to bring us to today's focus, now we have kicked off a new project, a WIC participant recertification portal. And this project is philanthropically funded by the Social Safety Net Product Studio, a new initiative funded by Schmidt Futures, Balmer Group, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Philanthropies to spur the development of technology, design, and data innovations that improve the delivery of government benefits for low-income Americans. And again, we are partnering with the state of Montana in designing and developing this project. In this project, we're focusing on recertification. Our goals center around retention and reducing burden. And we do know that a lot of the things that we will learn in this context of recertification will also be applicable to initial certification and enrollment. But for right now, focus on recertification. We outlined goals specific to our solution and what we're building, and our goals include reducing the synchronous time spent and the administrative barriers in recertification appointments, increasing retention in WIC, and then sharing the approach and outcomes of our work, contributing to a strong foundation for our partner Montana and for other state and local agencies to design and build portals like this. And what this looks like in terms of what we're doing, by the end of this project, we will have established a participant advisory council, again, the focus of our talk today. We will have built an MVP open source participant recertification portal, which will include static guiding plain language content about the recertification process, as well as interactive content like a secure document uploader. And we'll be piloting this MVP with local agency staff and users in Montana. We will also be publishing toolkits that detail the approach and process that we are taking for this project. And as with the last project, we are continuing to engage with the community as a core part of our project. And so our design process prioritizes getting the perspective of users as we design and build, designing alongside users and stakeholders, ensures that what we build meets their needs and produces successful outcomes for both of those parties. So throughout this project, we're engaging with participants through the Participant Advisory Council, local agency and state staff in Montana. And then we are also working with advising states, Idaho, New York, and West Virginia through regularly scheduled touch points. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the broader community through, again, sessions like today's, this demo day, and other learning sessions. Now we're going to focus in on the Participant Advisory Council specifically, and I'll hand it off to Michaela to talk about this.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a little bit more about what this council is, why we chose this method, and the approach we took to building it out. So the Participant Advisory Council, we also call it a PAC. We decided to engage with WIC participants this way for a couple reasons. One of the tenets of human-centered design, which we're big believers and practitioners of at NAVA, is to be building with the users who are going to be directly impacted by the product or the service. And we do that by engaging them throughout the design process to really ensure that their perspectives and needs are integrated into decisions, rather than building things for users without them having any really meaningful ways to provide feedback. So we were interested in the PAC because it enables us to consistently engage with WIC participants throughout the different phases of our project. Another reason we were interested in this approach is so that we would have a more consistent pool of participants for our user research studies. So in our last project, the demonstration project, recruiting participants was sometimes challenging. We were on a short timeline. It was a really small team, so it was often hard to recruit folks to schedule and facilitate those sessions. Also because WIC participants themselves are busy people, right? They have a lot of competing priorities. The recertification project is also on a really short timeline, and we also have a pretty small team. And it's really greenfield, so we knew we'd want to do multiple kinds of user research activities. And it was really important for us as we set up this project to have a process that would allow us to more quickly recruit participants. And then finally, another reason why we were interested in this approach is around equity. So our hypothesis is that the PAC is really a way towards a more equitable user research process. A common critique that we feel is that user research sessions, especially with vulnerable populations, can feel extractive for participants. Often in these sessions, they're one-off interviews where the relationship with the participant just ends after the interview is over. And designers at NAVA have been really interested in exploring research methods and approaches that give more agency back to participants. So our approach with the PAC, it really centers on building relationships with participants and being accountable as researchers to continuously share back what we're learning and engage participants in what we do with the information we're getting from them. Building out the PAC, it does require some upfront time and investment, so I'm going to talk through the approach we took. First, we had to set this up, right? And we really used the project's high-level roadmap and those goals that Daniela shared earlier to anchor how we wanted to organize the pack. So we started by mapping out all the times we thought we might need to work with WIC participants to do research, to validate ideas, things like that. For example, we knew from the beginning of the project that we would want to start by doing some discovery research to understand how WIC participants experience recertification before we jumped into designing solutions. So we identified different kinds of research activities like that, different checkpoints that would be beneficial for us as we progress through the project. We sort of mapped those out and then thought about how we could make participation in the pack feel manageable for WIC participants, because we don't want to ask for too much time, right? So we defined guidelines for how long activities would take, how many would be required, and which ones would be optional. Ultimately, we landed on a 5-month timeline that is a combination of shorter monthly meetings and then longer user research studies. So once we knew how long, the amount of time we'd be asking for PAC members, this also helped us figure out how we wanted to handle compensation, as well as how many members to include in the PAC. So we figured out like a target budget based on the amount of people we'd include in the PAC and how many hours we'd be asking from them for participation. In our PAC, participants aren't required to participate in every research activity or join every monthly call. So we also realized that paying participants per activity would present some challenges. It's just harder for us to track that. So we decided instead to actually pay participants a stipend. We break this stipend out over the 6 months, so we're paying in installments using vanilla gift cards, which work like a Visa debit card, basically. So that allows folks to get paid along the way, and it allows us to not have to try and track every single activity that someone is doing. So once we knew kind of the parameters of what the PAC would involve, we moved on to recruiting. One of the underlying guidance from Montana was that we should be allowing potential participants to contact us versus us contact them. So to support this, we created a really short interest form that WIC participants who were interested in learning more about the PAC would fill out. It just has some basic contact information and says that we will be taking the next step to contact them. We are really fortunate on this project to be working with some incredible state and local agency staff, and they actually were the ones who were doing the primary recruitment. So they would refer WIC participants to the interest form if they thought they'd be a good fit for the PAC. And to help them with that, we created different kinds of marketing materials for them, like this flyer, which was participant facing. We also made some social media graphics and wrote just some internal talking points that staffs could use when explaining this opportunity to WIC participants. So once we started getting responses to our interest form, we set up these intake calls where we would give more context about what the PAC is, the expectations for participating, and also answer questions. So these were about 15-minute calls. We would explain the different expectations, the stipend amount, and how we would be paying it in installments. And we also would talk a little bit more about just overall what it's like to be in a user research study. And we explained our approach to privacy and consent, both for being in the PAC and also for the different research activities we'd be doing. If someone was interested in joining the PAC, we would then send them an agreement form, which this slide is showing a part of. So this agreement form would just restate the different expectations we have for PAC members, as well as the stipend amount and installments. If participants digitally sign this form, they were just considered formally part of the PAC. I think ultimately it took about 5-ish weeks to set up the pack, and we've ended up with 12 members, which is well within the target that we set out to. So we have the pack, it's going, and we'll share a little bit now about what it's looking like to collaborate with them. So yeah, like I mentioned, there are 2 defined touch points we have with the pack. So every month we have a 30-minute meeting over Zoom, and the topic really changes every month. This is actually a slide we showed in the December meeting, which was our first call together, and we really focused on what participating in the pack would involve. And the goal with these monthly meetings is it's not just for us to talk at the pack and give updates, and it's not like a focus group. We're designing them to be collaborative sessions, and we think about what we need as a team as we prepare those agendas. I'll share a little bit more about this later, but for example, in January, our monthly meeting focused on actually sharing back some research findings. And in February, we did more of a co-design session where we workshop different prompts we might show in the recertification portal. The other touch point we have with PAC members is the user research studies. So these are generally 60-minute long. They're one-on-one sessions between the PAC member and then the research team. And just to share a little bit more about what those research touch points look like, this is a timeline of the research activities with PAC members. This is also a slide we actually showed them so they could understand the different kinds of activities we're planning, as well as how they would participate. Everything we're doing is remote, and we were mindful as we set this up that some of these sessions might require video and screen share capabilities, but we didn't want every interview to require that. So we clarify when research activities can actually just be done over the phone. So as you can see, we have 4 different research activities planned for PAC members. In December, we did discovery research, which was really helping us build a base understanding of the recertification process from the WIC participant perspective. So through these calls, we identified different pain points and opportunities for making this process easier for WIC participants, as well as capturing different kinds of support they were getting from staff. Now we're moving into testing different concepts with participants for ways to make recertification easier. And these concepts are based on opportunities that came out of that discovery research. After that, we're going to be refining our concepts, doing some content and usability testing of higher fidelity prototypes as we prepare for the pilot. And our last touch point in April is actually going to be a little bit different. We're planning on doing a session focused on being part of the PAC. We really want to get their feedback on what it was like, what we could do better, so we can improve our approach for these types of groups on subsequent projects. I'll just note, these are research activities from the PAC perspective. Not captured on the slide is similar research we've been doing on this project with local agency staff in parallel. I just also wanted to share that in terms of how we are working with the PAC, yes, they are an incredible tool for our user research studies, but it's not just that for us. We're actually engaging with the PAC in sharing draft findings from those studies and refining them together to ensure that as researchers, we're properly capturing their experience and all the nuances they have. This really goes back to the idea about working with the PAC to create a more equitable research process. We think it's critically important that PAC members have an active role in shaping what we take away from our user research studies, because we use these findings to really make decisions on what the recertification portal will look like. Sharing back findings, it's a new process for us, but it's been really fruitful. Tactically, during the monthly meetings, We are sharing what we heard in the research and then posing discussion prompts that are there to gut check the conclusions we're drawing and give PAC members an opportunity to provide additional nuance, to push back, add more color. This has really allowed us to refine our research reports and also ensure that PAC members are bought into the summaries before we share them more widely. So just as an example, in January, we shared our discovery research findings, and there was this one insight that it didn't fully resonate with PAC members' experiences. And we were able to use that monthly call to have a group discussion and tease out that finding and refine it before we shared it back with the larger team. So that's how we have been working with the PAC, and I'll pass it back to Daniela to talk about working with our advising states.
Yeah, thanks, Michaela, for walking us through all of that. So how we are working with our advising states group. So in our last demo day from the eligibility screener demonstration project, we actually sent out a call and then also via email as well for states that were interested in joining our advising states group, another new idea that we had for this project. And what we wanted to do was offer a lower effort way for state agencies who are interested to be involved with the participant recertification portal project without them having to sign up as a full-fledged partner like Montana is for us, and without having to commit to being a pilot partner state, the pilot phase coming later on in the project, where we will actually be testing the portal at local agency sites. Part of what has been really, really lovely about this was that we did hear from states that they were interested in being a part, but they just couldn't commit to that higher level effort. Totally fine. So this has been a way for us to enable this quick collaboration across state and across consortium sharing. Some of the expertise that these states have offered us is what's highlighted in green on the slide. So they have been able to layer in their expertise and experience with regards to their staff experience. As part of our December discovery research, we actually interviewed some members from those states' staff in order to help kind of shape our overall staff-facing discovery. They've also been able to help us understand their MIS systems as well as the other supporting tech for their service delivery. This is super different across all of these states. Some of them are parts of consortiums and some of them are not. Some of them are building stuff in-house and some of them are not. So this has been really helpful for us to just understand how whatever we might think about building could potentially scale or would not be scalable. It's been really great to hear. As well as some of their other workflows. And then also just from a policy standpoint, how they're implementing and how they're enforcing and how they're adding in different policy at different points for their service delivery. So those are all things that we're talking about in those meetings, and they've been incredibly rich in terms of learning so far for us. We're actually going to talk now about reflections that we have had so far from the project. Again, we started the project mid-November, so we're a few months in. So some of the challenges that we've had so far is just around diverse recruitment. It is hard for us in this population of WIC participants to find a diverse group of people to do our research with, specifically non-gestational parents and other types of caretakers. Something that the local agency staff was incredibly helpful in terms of trying to identify who some of these people could be that would be really good to participate on the PAC. It's just hard to find some of these other cases, grandparents, other guardians and stuff, and we know that those are perspectives that would be super beneficial in the future. Maybe if we have more time in the future, we could do a little bit more recruiting there. We're missing the perspective of people who have fallen out of WIC. Everyone that is in the PAC has been able to successfully recertify, and part of what we can use those groups to do, or that group to do, is to define what has been successful for them and try to replicate it to try and prevent people from falling out of WIC. But again, this is a missing perspective in terms of our research. Defining practices and processes that center participant privacy and safety. Typically, everyone at NAVA is really excited about human-centered design, whether you're a designer or not. We've seen really great results from including product folks and engineering folks in some of our research. It helps get them closer to the users and helps connect what they're working on to the actual outcomes for real people. With the PAC, we were very specific about making sure that we understood what everyone's privacy and safety comfort levels were, and at what touch points it would be appropriate to include other members from our team. So we've been a little bit tighter around that than I have been on previous projects. And then operational processes have been a little bit of a challenge here as well, but nothing we couldn't overcome. This was the first time we have done that stipend model that Michaela mentioned earlier. And so it's just been something that we've really had to over communicate, make clear what we're doing in terms of bringing program leadership and our contracts team along with us as we've defined these new payment processes, for example. And then the other thing here, this last point, this is something that we realized kind of like in our first month of running the PAC, we will be piloting the PRP and it will go live for some folks who are recertifying in 2 specific local agencies. And it's only going to be live for probably 4-ish weeks. It's temporary, it's time bound, so it's entirely possible that some of our PAC members will not actually get to use the portal that we're building as part of their recertification appointments, which can feel a little weird. So it's just on us to make sure that they really do understand how their contributions will ladder up into what we're building. Michaela.
Yeah, there definitely are some challenges, but there's also a lot of opportunities that we want to highlight. Even though we're still in this process, I just think overall it's been such a fruitful experience for us. As I mentioned before, one of the biggest opportunities we've gotten with the PAC model is that ability to check our findings with WIC participants before we finalize our reports. And that just really helps us as researchers feel confident that the conclusions we're drawing actually resonate with WIC participant experiences. Obviously the PAC is helping us improve the approach we take for building out this recertification portal, but it's also helping us identify other opportunities. PAC members are often bringing up feedback about other aspects of the WIC program, like the shopping experience, for example, or policy changes you'd like to see. So I think that, this is a model that can also help inform an agency's longer-term WIC strategy roadmap. It doesn't have to just be about one specific part of the service delivery. And for our partners, the PAC model really offers a way to be continuing to build trust between WIC participants and agency staff, because you are demonstrating how agencies are, not only soliciting input from participants, but actually using that input to make decisions. You're also just meeting with the same group for an extended period of time. And so I think that the PAC provides another touch point to just be making sure that people are able to use their benefits. And if they aren't, helping them troubleshoot that so they maximize the benefits that they're getting. And then finally, for us, while we are focused on WIC, the PAC has been a method for us to just, I think, take a step back and understand the holistic experience that low-income parents have as they are navigating the social safety net. Because many WIC participants, as you probably know, are enrolled in other services and other kinds of support. And they're often, favorably comparing WIC to these other services. So it just helps us understand more of the kind of complicated web of services that participants are navigating and their overall model that they bring as they are engaging with WIC.
And so that is what we wanted to talk about today. We just have a couple things, what's coming up next. So what's coming up next specifically on our project is that you heard Michaela mention in February, we'll be doing some co-design sessions with the PAC as part of our monthly meetings. We're also doing concept testing and co-design sessions with local agency staff. That's kind of what we're focused on next as the design team. And then I think Martel answered this as a question. The content of today's presentation is going to become a toolkit that lives on our website. So you'll have access to today's presentation. We will probably re-record the beginning for you all. And then we will also be posting some of the material, anonymized or cleaned up anonymized materials that we shared with you today. And then we will be announcing upcoming demo days and learning sessions soon. Again, this is something we want to continue doing as part of this project that we did as part of the last project. As I mentioned at the beginning, if there's something specifically you're interested in, let us know, because we will see how that kind of fits into what we're working on. Maybe it will turn into a topic. And that's our presentation for today. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, if you want us to talk about something tactically, or if you have any reflections, we do welcome that. You can use the chat, and I think Martel's going to help us just make sure we see all those questions.
Yeah, so feel free to type your questions in the Q&A or in the chat, or if you have thoughts or comments, we'd also welcome those as well. So we'll give it a few moments for folks to formulate their thoughts. It looks like we have folks from all across the country, so thanks for taking time out of your day to join us today. Okay, we have a question submitted. Once the recertification portal is designed, will it be demonstrated on a call? On an upcoming demo day?
My assumption is yes, we will do some sort of demonstration, similar to how we did it for the last project, which maybe one of my lovely NAVA colleagues could drop that in the chat. We did a comprehensive demo day at the end of that project when we wrapped up, and we're turning it into a number of case studies. We'll do something similar with this project as well.
Great, thank you. All right, we got a couple of other questions. What would you do differently if you could do this again?
I'm just thinking that we're still in it. So I also think we'll have a better answer in a couple months. I mean, I definitely want to echo what Daniela mentioned about diversity of recruitment. I think, if we had a longer project timeline, we could have allowed recruitment for the PAC to go on longer, and then therefore, done some more specific targeting for getting other kinds of parents and authorized reps into the group.
Great. But yeah, go ahead, Daniela.
I was just going to add on to that, like what Michaela said. I think the thing that's the most on my mind is we're developing a technology project, and it's really hard to reach participants and authorized representatives who are grandparents, who are potentially not as tech fluent as some of the younger parents and guardians we're working with. And that's something that I'm always cognizant of, making sure that whatever we design can meet their needs as well.
Great. Excellent. So we have a couple of other questions. How can people get more involved with the work, with our work? Do you want me to answer?
I was like, Martel, I think you might have an answer for that.
Great. So for this project, we're going to continue to share out demo days, so stay tuned. And then we'll also share opportunities for WIC Technology Resource Group sessions. So we welcome you to join in on those. And those are usually, unless there's too many registrants, usually we could do those as actual meetings, and we do a lot of breakout into small group discussions, and folks have the opportunity to share and learn from each other, and we can help troubleshoot and talk through things that you are working on specifically. So that's kind of like a low touch way of getting involved with the work. We are seeing a lot of value in the in this peer model of engagement of other state agencies and other agencies being engaged in the project as advisors. So we hope to continue that model potentially with future projects. We'd also just love to work with you directly. So if you want to reach out, we'd be happy to chat more about how we can potentially work together. We also have several existing resources on the wichub.org, the National WIC Association Knowledge Management Hub. There we have several toolkits up there. We also have additional toolkits on the NAVA website. But yeah, I think maybe the best way is just to reach out, get in touch, and we'll help steer you to what might make sense. Great. Let's see the next question. Oh, I'm sorry, Danielle or Michaela, do you have any other thoughts on how people can work with us? Okay, great. The next question is the flyer that you used to advertise the PAC. Did you have specific people who put that up for outreach in each state? Did you get a lot of responses from the flyer? So yeah.
Oh, I think Martel froze. The rest of the question was, did you get a lot of responses from the flyer? Okay, so we made a Montana specific flyer, and then we also made a state agnostic one, which didn't mention a specific state. With Montana, the local agency staff were sharing that flyer directly with WIC participants. So it's hard for us to know how many folks were sent that flyer. I just pulled it up. We had 22 responses to the interest form for Montana. And we used some of their responses to, like we did do like a screening process basically, to try and bring diversity to the PAC. So for example, one of the things we wanted was, folks who do not have adjunctive eligibility. So we would have members of the PAC who would have to provide proof of income during recertification. So we looked at the interest form responses and then used that to determine who to reach out for an intake call.
I think the only thing I would add there is in the interest form that they filled out, however they got the link from staff directly, from the flyer, from social media. I think we were sharing it on Facebook. We did ask in the interest form, how did you hear about this opportunity? So that validated some of the outreach that we had done. And then we also found some, a friend sent me this kind of thing. So we know that there was some word of mouth happening in some of the community as well. I can take this next one, Martel. So along with us doing some sort of portal demonstration later on, I think the timing will be another hour. It will probably be at this 4 to 5 time slot as well on a Thursday. That's typically our norm. And it will probably be in the late spring, early summer. I can't say for sure because it depends on a bunch of aspects like vacation and when we finish the project and the pilot and stuff, but it will probably be late spring, early summer. I can also, Martel, you're muted, but I can take this next one.
Okay, you can take the next one. Great.
Yeah. So in the future, do you plan on engaging with folks who are non-English speakers